What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for another week of NFL picks for your 2020 NFL season. This week, week number 4. Week number 3 was probably ahead of the schedule. Looking at it, one of the most loaded cards for one weekend in the NFL that, on paper, we will have all season long. Week 4, it's not as great, but there is still some gems inside this week number 4. I'm going to break down every game, give you my picks straight up and versus the spread. Before I give you my picks, my thoughts, and my analysis on every matchup inside the NFL for week number 4 of the 2020 NFL season, Gronk, spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL picks every single week. Also, comment your opinion in the comment section, whether you're here live with me right now, or if you're watching this after the fact and you couldn't make it live. Comment your opinion, comment your picks. Let me know who's going to win each and every game in the NFL for week number 4. All right, guys. Week number 4, baby. It is time. We're ready. We're ready to go. Week number 4, and this is going to be a little bit more. I said it on the bottom line, and if you guys haven't already checked it out, please go check it out. Please go check out the bottom line. It's the weekly review show that I do every single week. It's actually, I think, a great way to get caught up in the NFL, get your storyline fix, get your thoughts in one place from me here on the channel, and then come right back one day later and get your picks and your preview for the following week. So I think it kind of encapsulates the week that was. So if you guys don't already know the show, The Bottom Line, here on the channel, the weekly review, where I talk about the biggest topics, the biggest games from the week that was, make sure you do check that video out. That comes out here, and it's also live, just like the picks video, every Tuesday night. And this game picks video is on every Wednesday night. So let's start off the picks with giving you first my record, all right? So my record this year, which I haven't shown you my record yet, unless you've been keeping track of what my record is. Don't worry, I've been keeping track. I feel like it's almost irrelevant for me to give you like my week 1 record, my week 2 record. So about after 3 weeks, we can start keeping tally of what my record is. So here is my record from the first 3 weeks in general. Straight up, I'm 35, 12, and 1. I think that's a pretty good record. I know for the pick'em that we have on ESPN, man, some of you guys are doing amazing. Like, I gotta give credit where credit is due. Some of you guys are really killing the game. Like, Ultra is killing the game. I think he's hitting at like 98%. Like, that is just absurd. Even straight up, that is absurd. Spread picks, I'm 26, 21, and 1, so doing pretty good versus the spread overall. I am above 500, which is where you want to be. And then my best bets are hitting at 60%, which is, I think, about pro standard for pro bettors out there. So 60% is pretty good for your best bets, and I hope to keep it there for the rest of the season and maybe even get better. So those are my picks, and those are my pick records from the first 3 weeks overall. Let me know how you're doing in your picks. You think you're doing well? You're not doing so hot? Let me know in the comments as well. And if you think you're going to get better, if you think you can bounce back, or if you think it's going to be hard to keep it up, let me know in the comments. All right, so let's get to the first matchup, which is the game of the decade, bro. This is the game of the decade. We're talking about the game of 2020. The great John Elway-led Broncos versus the Joe Namath Jets. Oh, that's not the game? Unfortunately, that's not what we're getting on Thursday Night Football. We are actually getting... Who is the quarterback for the Broncos this week. Some guy named Rippin, I think. And then on the other side, we're getting the guy that was supposed to be the stud, which hasn't really been the stud yet, Sam Darnold and the New York Jets. An Adam Gase team versus a Vic Fangio team. I would say two of the coaches, while I do like Fangio more than I like Gase, two of the coaches that are a little less, I would say, forward-thinking. I would say on top of the trends in the NFL at this moment in time. Adam Gase is one of those coaches that will not adjust no matter the situation, no matter the personnel, no matter the quarterback, receivers, running backs, tight ends, offensive line. He's going to do what he does. On the flip side, Vic Fangio, this is an underrated storyline through 3 weeks. The Denver Broncos, in terms of time management, have been atrocious. And in terms of Vic Fangio's usage of timeouts, their aggressiveness on fourth down, and their overall situational football has been terrible for the last 2 years under Vic Fangio. So while I've always believed that Fangio is a great defensive coach, and I still believe he is, he has yet to grasp, and maybe this is why it's taken him so long to get the head coaching job in general, the actual head coaching time management aspect of being a head coach. So we got probably right now two of the most underwhelming coaches in the NFL from a head coaching perspective. We have two teams that are in the absolute dumps right now. And it kind of sucks for the Broncos because we knew the Jets were going to suck. Whether Le'Veon Bell was healthy, Jamison Crowder was healthy, even if they had Jamal Adams, we thought this team would suck. Okay, there's no way around it. But for the Broncos, we thought that they may be a sneaky contender with Drew Lock, with Von Miller, with Courtland Sutton. And it turns out that none of those players are playing. Not just right now, but potentially for the entire season when you're talking about Von Miller and Courtland Sutton. So they've arguably already lost their best offensive player and their best defensive player in Denver. So it's just been kind of an unfortunate set of events. And you have to wonder if you're the Broncos, if you're John Elway, and if you're just this franchise in general, what do you do when it comes to moving forward with the future of this franchise and of this team? Like, do you keep Vic Fangio around, or do you actually move on from him, even though it might not be his fault for the reason why this team is where they're at? Like, I would credit the injuries more than anything else being the reason why this team is where they're at, but for the future of this franchise, is Fangio the guy to lead them into the future? So that, I think, is the question that the Broncos are going to have to ask. And it kind of sucks that Locke is also missing action because they're also going to have to answer the question of, is Drew Lock the starter for the long term? Or is he just somebody that had potential that didn't reach that potential? So for me, the engaging questions are with the Broncos. The Jets, on the other hand, they're looking for the first pick. They're looking to hit the reset button. And I actually think that their general manager, Douglas, is putting them in a good direction. I think he knows what he's doing. But the first step is going to be firing Adam Gase and probably getting a new quarterback, which is unfortunate for Sam Darnold because the guy never really had much of an opportunity or chance to prove that he was anything. But sometimes that's the way that the NFL goes, and he'll likely get a spot or a chance elsewhere. Now, as far as this game is concerned, I don't care who wins. I don't think in the landscape of the NFL this matters. And honestly, if you are betting on this game, you are a degenerate, okay? I'm just going to be flat out and honest. Do not bet on this game with real money. If you want to use Monopoly money If you want to have a friendly bet with your friend, then fine. If you're actually betting on this game, I don't know what to tell you, bro. I really don't know who's going to win this game. I really have no idea. I am going to say, I want to say the Broncos, because I do think they're more talented. So I'll go with the Broncos. They're favored. And I don't know. The Jets are terrible. They're awful. They're hideous. They're horrendous. But they probably will win a game this year. So maybe the Jets do win this game. I don't know, man. I really don't know. But I'm going to say the Broncos. I guess I'm going to go with the Broncos, and I'm going to say they cover. But again, do not bet on this game unless you're a degenerate and you like to be a degenerate and you want to just have fun, I guess. All right, so that's the first game. But I do think there's interesting narratives, not for this game itself on the field, but for the future of these franchises and how we're looking at them. So keep that in mind. The second game, going to Sunday now, switching from Thursday Night Football, which is possibly the worst Thursday Night Football game that I've seen scheduled in a very long time. Not necessarily because of the teams coming in from the offseason, but because of the circumstances around them right now at this moment in time. It's just kind of the most unfortunate thing to happen for Thursday Night Football with the Jets and the Broncos. Switching from that to Sunday, the Cardinals, the Panthers. This game got a lot more interesting after week number 3, right? Because after 2 weeks, the Panthers looked like one of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Cardinals looked like one of the best teams in the NFL. The Cardinals dominated Washington, and then week number 1, they beat the 49ers, upset the 49ers. The Panthers, they lost to the Bucs, and they lost to the Raiders. Now, we've come to find out that the Raiders might be slightly better than we thought. Maybe slightly, maybe about what we thought. The Bucs are definitely a good team, as we've seen. And the Cardinals beat a Washington team that's not very good. And the 49ers, who we don't know if they're still the contender that we thought they were in the NFC. Although they were healthy at that time, at least closer to full health. So this game's way more interesting. Now, from a matchup perspective, I think it's interesting that Kyler Murray is going to be facing a college coaching staff, because I think if there's any coaching staff that will have sort of a grasp of what Kyler and Cliff are going to do to attack their defense, I think it would be Matt Rule and this young coaching staff that has spent basically their entire careers in the college game. And being that the Cardinals kind of run a college scheme, that is intriguing to me to see how the Panthers are able to match up and maybe even give issues to Kyler Murray. Now, I'm not sure the Panthers have the players to pull it off, but maybe from a schematic perspective, they make it interesting. From a DeAndre Hopkins perspective, he should go off. I don't see anybody on the Panthers in their secondary who can cover one-on-one DeAndre Hopkins, or even in a double team situation, it's going to be difficult. Now, the Panthers have been getting a little bit better each and every week, it looks like, and they've been progressing each and every week. The offense does have some weaponry on the outside that I actually think is going to give the Cardinals some fits, because we saw them beat the Niners and Washington, but those two teams did not have good receivers. We then saw them lose to Detroit, and Detroit's offense gave them more issues, not just because of Matthew Stafford, but also because they have receivers in Detroit. And Carolina, Teddy is a productive, efficient quarterback. He's not Matthew Stafford in terms of the arm, in terms of the big play capability, but Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, these guys can make plays on the outside and actually threaten this underwhelming secondary in Arizona. So this game, to me, is actually going to be quite close. And I do agree with Vegas that I think it will be around a one-score game. Because I think the Panthers offense can move the football on the Cardinals defense, even without Christian McCaffrey running the football. Mike Davis looks pretty good as their starter. So with all of that, I think the Cardinals win the game. I'm going to take the Cardinals to cover, but I could see this game being close. Remember, last week, I thought the game versus the Chargers would be pretty close, and it ended up that the Panthers actually won outright. So, yeah, I think this is another game. Just pay attention to the Panthers. Maybe they are slightly better than we thought. And I think if they are slightly better than we thought, it has to do with how quickly this defense picks up their new scheme and this coaching staff. And then offensively, they just have a lot of good players and talent at skill positions. And that allows them to keep up on the scoreboard with just about any team and even give fits to some of the better defenses in the league. So the Panthers are kind of one of those teams that because of where they're good, they can keep up with the team like the Cardinals, but I do think the Cardinals ultimately are the better team. And I think the difference here is Kyler Murray making some plays and hopefully this week protecting the football, unlike last week where Kyler had his worst game I've maybe seen him play since he entered the NFL, throwing 3 interceptions versus Detroit. So I got the Cardinals to win and also the Cardinals to cover. Guys, I will get to your comments. Just stick around. If you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button. And if you are new, subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL previews, weekly NFL picks here on the channel. Let me just fix something real quick, and we're going to get to the next game. Party says, Party is just trashing everybody. That's nothing new. That's classic Party. What else we got here? Don is excited about his Detroit Lions. We're going to get to them real quick. I know a lot of people are excited in the chat about the NBA Finals. All right, let's get to the third matchup. The third matchup is the Baltimore Ravens at the Washington football team. Washington is not good, guys. I know they beat the Eagles, but it just so happens that the Eagles are also trash in their own right. So them beating the Eagles in hindsight is not very impressive. The Ravens are coming off a game where they got embarrassed, in my opinion, versus the Chiefs. They were favored. They were at home. The expectation was that it was their time to beat the Chiefs. It did not happen. They disappointed, and now they're coming off of that. So, this to me is one of the games I look at and I say, blowout city. The Ravens should win this game by at least 3 scores. If they do not, I will be disappointed. I think Lamar is going to have his best game of the season. I think this entire Ravens team and specifically coaching staff is going to be a lot better this week. They are going to have motivation coming into this game. They are going to be, quite frankly, pissed off, and they are going to take it out on the Washington football team. Now, the thing is here, Washington could provide some resistance with their front seven. The front seven of Washington is very good. It's big, it's physical, it's strong, they can bully you, and they will not be manhandled in the line of scrimmage on that side of the football. But the Browns did just run all over them last week. So the Ravens will run the football well. Lamar will hit a few big plays in the passing game. And Washington's offense is dreadful. They cannot get anything going down the field. Now, Terry McLaurin might have a decent game, I think, because he can threaten the Ravens secondary with his speed, where we saw the Chiefs really attack the Ravens secondary using Tyreek Hill and Watkins and Hardman and their speed. So that speed element is something that the Ravens, we saw on Monday, have struggled with, and I'm intrigued to see if Washington can do the same thing with Terry McLaurin. So I'd expect to see a good fantasy day, a lot of targets for him in this game, but that's mostly going to be in garbage time when the game's already over, in my opinion. Haskins has not looked great. He's very volatile. He is just extremely, like, it seems like one play he's money and then the next he's dreadful. He really lacks any sort of extend the play, carry a team on my back ability, which was what my concern was coming out of the draft. And they don't really have any playmakers outside of Scary Terry that you got to be worried about. Their run game is completely useless. And their defense, their secondary is pretty weak, although that's probably the area you want to be weak when you play the Ravens. I think the Washington could keep it maybe close for the beginning of the game and hang in there. But eventually the Ravens are going to break a couple big runs or big plays, and they're going to be able to chip away and just finish Washington off with a message, I think. I think the Ravens are going to come in, they're going to dominate, and at the end of the game, we're going to say, okay, they lost to the Chiefs, but this team is still legitimate. This team is still something to be reckoned with, and this team is still going to dominate most teams every Sunday. I would be shocked if this game was close. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to take the Ravens to win, and I'm going to take the Ravens to cover. The one thing I want to see is how they adjust to teams now seeing what the Chiefs did to them and trying to replicate it. And I'm not talking about the Chiefs' offense, because that's nearly impossible to replicate. The only other team that could possibly replicate what they did was maybe the Seahawks, but that's about it. Maybe the Packers, but that's about it. The defense of the Chiefs did a really good job at stifling the Ravens, and I kind of want to see if other defenses replicate that as well. We'll see if Washington is able to do so, but I doubt it. All right. So we got week number 4, the Cowboys and the Cleveland Brownies. This game is maybe one of the more underrated games of the week. I feel like Dallas this entire season is going to be exciting. They're going to be a must-watch game every single week. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have all offense and little to no defense. That's just the way I look at them right now. Their secondary is missing pieces, and when they have all their pieces, they're still below average. Their linebacking core is kind of depleted. Their pass rush is solid in moments and in spurts, and that might be the determining factor in this game. If the Cowboys are able to get pressure on Baker to force Baker to make mistakes, then they can win this game. Because I think on the flip side, the Cowboys are going to be able to score. It's just a matter of, can they just wreck the game for Baker Mayfield? Because I think Cleveland's going to be able to move the ball. I think Cleveland's going to be able to run the ball the way they like. But if Baker is on, that is when you kind of fall into, the Cowboys could get upset. If Baker is on and Baker is comfortable and Baker is able to hit Odell down the field for a bomb, who's going to be a mismatch nightmare for the Cowboys secondary. They really don't have anyone to cover him. Then that's where the Browns could pull off an upset. But if it's just, okay, maybe the Browns can run the ball, but every time they drop back to pass, there's pressure, he makes a bad throw, and all you really need is like 3 or 4 bad throws in this game from Baker for the Cowboys to take advantage and for Dak to take advantage and take over this game. This offense for Dallas, we know it's very balanced, but I think when they're at their best, it's when they allow Dak to lead them and be a pass-first offense. I want to see Dallas be more aggressive early in games. And I want to see that happen in this game. I want to see them take it to the Browns. Because I think the way that you beat the Browns and you defeat the Browns and you blow out the Browns is you lead by double digits early. because just like the Ravens, different but similar, the Ravens versus the Chiefs, and what we saw with the Ravens is they don't seem to be able to come from behind and win games. Now, with the Browns, you want Baker to be passing as much as possible because he is the weakness of their team. The more the Browns are able to run the ball, the higher their chances go of winning the game. But if the Cowboys come out and they're aggressive and they put up 2 touchdowns early, and now Baker's having to make big-time throws, step up in the pocket, take hits, and be pinpoint accurate, then, the Cowboys will easily win this game. I don't see it as a blowout, though. I think the Cowboys defense still has a ways to go to say that the Cowboys can really blow anybody out, in my opinion, or at least any decent team out. I think the Browns are a decent team. They're a borderline playoff team to me. So I think the Cowboys will win this game. The 4.5 points is very interesting, though. I am very much thinking about taking the Browns here. It's tough because the Browns could easily be in this game to the end. They could easily win this game. But at the same time, there could be a play where Baker is driving, they're down by 7, and he throws a pick 6, and all of a sudden they lose by 14. So, is 4.5 enough points in a game where it's probably going to be higher scoring, like high 20s, low 30s, or even into the 30s? Is 4.5 points enough to differentiate the Browns and the Cowboys? But I'm going to go with my gut here, and I'm going to take the points. I don't love it, and I don't think this will end up being one of my bets of the week. But I'm going to take the 4.5 because I do think there is an opportunity and there is a game script that exists where the Browns can really dictate the pace of play and keep Dak and this offense off the field, then causing the classic Dallas Cowboy panic when they try to just go like crazy in the second half, and then maybe they have some sort of comeback. But I could definitely see the Browns winning this game. But yeah, I'm going to say the Cowboys win a close one, but I will take the 4.5 because I do think there is value there in a team as talented as the Browns. And, when you can't really match up with this rushing attack of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and you can't match up with Odell, that's kind of concerning. So I'm going to take the Browns with the points, but I'll take the Cowboys to win the game. The next game is Nicholas Gill's Chicago Bears versus Party Parth's Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, the Bears, and this to me is one of the more confusing games of the week, but this is one of the games that I look at in week 4, and I say we're going to learn a lot about the Bears. We're going to learn a lot about the Colts because the Bears are 3-0, but the Bears have literally played teams that could qualify to play in the CFL thus far. They played the Lions. The Lions allowed them to win that game, basically. The Lions lost the game. The Bears did not win. Atlanta, they're giving everybody free wins in the fourth quarter. And I look at it as the Bears, still huge question marks. Maybe they can go to the playoffs. Maybe they're legit. Maybe they are a double-digit win team. But I don't really think they are yet. The Colts, on the other hand, I picked them to win this division before the season started. But they started off the season with that back-breaking loss to the Jacksonville Jags in a game where they did not punt. They did not punt at all. Then they go on to defeat the Vikings by a lot, but the Vikings suck. We know this. And week 3, they were able to also get a tight victory. So it's tough, man. This game's tough because there's kind of some crossover here. I think Nagy and Frank Reich are familiar coaches, and what I mean by familiar is they kind of understand each other and what each other is going for in their offensive approach and their team and what they're trying to bring, because they're from the same, what's it called? They're from the same coaching tree, and the Andy Reid coaching tree, and Frank Reich being in Philadelphia before playing or kind of calling plays or being the OC and the quarterback coach for Nick Foles. So there's crossover with Nick Foles and Frank Reich kind of knowing Nick Foles well, Nick Foles being the starter for the Bears. The Colts defense has been playing very well, but the Bears defense I like a lot too. The Colts, I think, are a better running team, so I would probably give the edge of pace of play and dictating pace of play to the Colts. But I don't really trust either quarterback right now. Like, I think Rivers is better than Foles, but I don't necessarily think it's by a lot. And definitely in any given situation, Foles has proven that he can be a baller and he can make big throws that maybe he outplays Phillip Rivers. So I'm not necessarily going to say that the determining factor is Rivers being better than Foles, because we know that in any given game, Foles can outplay Tom Brady. So, like, we've seen it before, right? So even though I don't think he actually outplayed Tom Brady, it's just the fact the Patriots defense was absolute poop, but that's the side point. So this game is just really confusing, but we're going to learn a lot. And it's confusing because we're going to learn a lot because we haven't learned a lot through 3 weeks for these two teams. I am going to go with the Colts. Reason why I'm going to go with the Colts is because of the Frank Reich familiar nature of him and Nick Foles. So understanding what Nick Foles is good at and what he's bad at, what gives him issues and what allows him to get in rhythm. So that's one thing that he can give to his defense and give his defense an advantage. I really like the way the Colts defense has been playing, specifically in their front seven. And actually, their secondary has been a lot better. And then on the flip side, I think that they can run the ball a little bit. And I think there's probably just a little bit of me that is saying I thought the Colts were going to be a playoff team before the year, and I didn't think the Bears would be. And the Bears should be maybe 1-2 or 0-3 at this point, but they luckily got to 3-0, while the Colts should probably be 3-0, if we're being honest, not 0-3 like the Bears. So even though the Colts come in with the worst record, they kind of have been the more impressive team. I'm going to say the Colts win, and I'm going to say the Colts cover, but I'm not extremely confident in that. Game number 6 is the Jacksonville Jags at the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, I'm still calling you the Bengals until you prove to me that you are allowed to be called the Bengals. You have to at least win 6 games this year for me to call you and qualify you as the Bengals again. I'm going to be honest. I don't have a lot to say about this game, but I do think this game could be a very interesting, high-scoring, fun game. I actually think this is a game between two bad teams that could be fun because we got Minshew Mania versus the number 1 pick, Joe Burrow. We have two teams that kind of have a lot of weaponry on the outside. Hopefully DJ Chark is ready to suit up for Jacksonville, which would be a big help to them because Minshew struggled without him. But then again, they got guys that are pretty interesting. I mean, Laviska Shenault and James Robinson, the running back, the rookie, and even guys like Keenan Cole, and those guys have been making plays. Then you look at the other side, CJ Henderson has been really good as a rookie. They got guys on the defensive line like Josh Allen, not the quarterback, the defensive end, that make plays. I think Myles Jack has been a lot better this year. So there's playmakers for Jacksonville. There's playmakers for Cincinnati. T. Higgins showed up with 2 touchdowns last week. Joe Mixon trying to get in a rhythm. They have AJ Green, obviously, Tyler Boyd, and the defense has been a little up and down. Carlos Dunlap and those guys, the defensive line, pretty solid. I think the Bengals are going to win because I believe in Joe Burrow. I honestly have not seen many young quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, just the way that he is so calm and so confident and so sure of himself. and it just seems like no moment for Joe Burrow is too big. On the flip side, I do think Minshew, he showed a little bit of his limitations last week. Without Chark, he really did struggle because he had no downfield threat to stretch the field out. A lot of it was about the check down, and it wasn't really working for them versus Miami. And Fitzpatrick shredded this defense last week, which I think Burrow could very well do. He's accurate, he can move, he can extend the play, and the guy is tough as absolute nails. That's what you like to see from a young quarterback, man. The guy's getting sacked 8 times a game. He gets concussed, basically, and then he comes into the game and he's still throwing absolute dots. So I think the Bengals are going to win the game. I think they're going to win in a one-score outing, probably something like 31-24, 30-23, 27-21, something like that. But I do think it will be entertaining. I think Jacksonville will have their moments as well offensively, but I'm going to lean towards Cincinnati because they have the better quarterback. I think they have the slightly better offense, and I just believe in Joe Burrow. The guy does not like to lose, and he will not lose this week. The LA Chargers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This, to me, opened, I think, at 6, maybe 6.5. I already have some money on the side of Tampa Bay, so there you go. I'm already telling you kind of who I'm picking right there. I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers are the sleeping giant of the NFL right now. Not enough people actually understand how good this team can be, and over the last 2 weeks have been, specifically this defense. This defense is probably, and I'll say it week in, week out until people notice, this defense is top 3 in the NFL right now. They can absolutely shut down the running game, which is what the Chargers want to do. The Chargers want to run the football. They will not be able to do that in this game. Forcing the ball into the hands of Justin Herbert, young Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's going to have to make plays with a feisty pass rush of JPP and of Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett, who had, I think, the defensive player of the week last week. And they're going to get after that rookie. They're going to cause mistakes. And that's going to lead to more short fields for Tom Brady and this offense, who are continuing to get better and better each and every week. We saw Brady throw 3 touchdowns, 300 yards last week. I think Brady has another good game. I think Chris Godwin being out is going to hurt them for the next 2 weeks. I think he's going to be out with a hamstring injury. But they got plenty of playmakers. We saw Gronk get more involved. We know Scotty Miller will be involved. Of course, they have Mike Evans. And they can run the ball decent enough. I think the Chargers defense will give some resistance to Brady and the Bucs, but I just think their defense is going to dominate this game and dominate this matchup, allowing the Bucs to win this game by double digits. So I'm going to have the Bucs winning 27-16. So I'm going to say they win by 10 plus points in this game. I like Justin Herbert. He played well again last week. Not taking anything away from him. He just has a tough task ahead, especially with a below average offensive line. All right. Next game. Here it is. We got the Detroit Lions at home, back at home after traveling. And they take on the Hall of Fame Drew Brees and, yes, the Hall of Fame coach, Sean Payton. They play the most dynamic duo we've seen for offensive purposes for the past 15 years in the NFL. But the thing is, that duo is not what it used to be. What are the Saints at this point in time? Are the Saints still the contender we thought they might be in the preseason? Or are the Saints no longer a threat? Are they overrated? Are they no longer any good? Are they old and done? The Lions are 1-2, and I saw some people chatting them up on Twitter that they should be 2-1, which, yes, I've been saying that. They should be 2-1. DeAndre Swift catches that football in the end zone. They are 2-1. And you know what's funny? If they are 2-1, they might even be favored in this game. I know that sounds kind of crazy, But think about it. The Saints have lost to the Raiders and the Packers. They are 1-2. They are 1-2. The Saints are 1-2. The Lions are 1-2. But the Lions probably should be 2-1. On the flip side, the Saints got dominated versus the Raiders. And maybe they had an opportunity if Taysom Hill doesn't fumble that ball versus the Packers. They have an opportunity. The line is 4, though. And it started off, I think, at 6 or 5-ish. So the funny thing is, like, I would just be really interested in a different world where the Lions beat the Bears. What is this line? Like, how much does the perception of the Lions change if they are 2-1? So that's funny to me. This is where I'm interested. And this is going to be a game to me for this week that I probably will not know who I'm actually picking until Sunday because I don't know if Michael Thomas is playing. If Michael Thomas is playing, he drastically changes things because Michael Thomas is a beast. Quite frankly, he's awesome. He's a great player. He is the security blanket and the biggest playmaker on this offense. Although the way Alvin Kamara is playing right now, that guy basically carries this team on his back at this moment. Carries Drew Brees on his back. Now, I'm really interested to see if Matt Patricia and this defensive staff can tie together 2 good weeks in a row. They faced a challenge in Kyler Murray. They were able to overcome it, and they did quite well. Now they face a totally different challenge. Now you don't face that mobile quarterback that runs around and makes plays with his legs. You are facing the pocket quarterback who loves to throw the ball very quickly, get out of his hands very quickly, and basically throw within 10 yards. Throw within the first down marker and let his playmakers make plays after the catch. And to me, while Matt Patricia, and I think coming from the school of Belichick, typically done decent against mobile quarterbacks in containing their efforts to run the ball, but have been shredded in the past when they throw the ball to create plays outside the pocket. When it comes to pocket quarterbacks of this nature, I almost feel like the Lions are in a better spot because they're not a super athletic defense, but if they could play tight enough coverage, especially if they get Desmond Trufant back, I do think they can limit a lot of the yards after catch plays and the money plays that the Saints are going to be trying to run with Drew Brees. Because Drew Brees, and people still don't understand this, Drew Brees is extremely limited as a quarterback right now. The guy has no zip on his deep ball. He really doesn't have it down the field anymore. So teams are going to continue to see this on film and continuing to adjust and adding on layers to things that they've seen defenses do to attack him over these past few weeks. And I think the Lions are going to be able to remain competitive with their defense versus this offense, even if Michael Thomas is there, but it's going to be a lot more difficult if Michael Thomas is there. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be a big issue because I don't really know, do you put a safety on him? Do you put a linebacker on him? Like, how are they going to match up with him? That's a very interesting matchup as well. And you can't let them really run the ball with a consistent basis because then that's where the Saints could really, really win this game. But on the flip side, I think Matthew Stafford and the offense can move the football well. We've seen that the Saints defense isn't quite as good as we thought it might be. They're slow. They're not great horizontally. Janoris Jenkins is hurt. Andrus Peat, their offensive lineman, is hurt. And I know they got a couple limited guys on defense. I'm missing one important one that one of them's hurt. But Janoris Jenkins is a pretty big one because he's their number 2 cornerback. So Lattimore versus Golladay is going to be a great matchup. I'm really interested there because of the physicality between the two players is a great matchup just on paper. I think TJ Hawkinson could have a big game here. I think DeAndre Swift needs to be involved out of the backfield to take advantage of the weak linebackers and coverage that the Saints offer. And we've seen teams like the Raiders and the Packers take advantage of the number 2 and the number 3 corner and the safeties and the linebackers of the Saints. If the Lions can do that with their running back, their tight end, and their number 2 and number 3 receiving options, they can win this game and they can win an upset. But if they're just running Adrian Peterson, if they're being very run first, and they are trying to hit those big plays down the field, instead of going to more of a quick passing game and trying to take advantage of mismatches, that's where I think the Lions will actually win, is if they go to more, Matthew Stafford, you got to win this game with your arm this week. If they approach it that way, they can pull off the upset, to me. So again, I don't really know who I'm going to pick until I see if Michael Thomas is playing or not. But I am going to say, based on the way these two teams have played over 3 weeks, I'm going to take the Lions. I didn't do it last week, even though I actually bet on them to win the game last week. I didn't do it last week just for jinx purposes. I don't know if I should do that again. Maybe that's good for you Lions fans out there. But right now, at this moment in time, I'm taking the Lions. And the reason is there's some important injuries on the Saints side. It's not in New Orleans, it's in Detroit. I think the Lions can keep up on the scoreboard. And I think with the way the Lions play man-to-man tight coverage, it's going to limit Drew Brees' ability to throw those easy completions. A lot of the times when teams play heavy zone coverage, it allows easy underneath yak completions. But when teams play tight man-to-man, force Drew Brees to throw it into a tight window and for his receiver to catch it, again, Drew Brees has not been accurate this year either. I think Matthew Stafford and him being better than Drew Brees is the reason they win. I know that sounds really weird to say, but that's the honest truth. I think Matthew Stafford makes more throws in this game than Drew Brees. And as long as the coaching is competent from Detroit, like I just laid out the game plan that I think they should run, I think they can win. I think they will win. So I actually think this is a good money line bet this week, taking Detroit to win the game. But I do want to see the injury reports because there's injuries on both sides, and a lot of it could hinge on who's in and who's out on both sides. I would love to see if both of these teams were at full strength. Like if Michael Thomas was playing, if Trufant was playing. I'd love to see if both sides had kind of all of their players on both sides, what would go down in this game. And I think I actually projected this to be a first-round matchup in the playoffs. Not sure I still feel the same way about that. And I will say, whoever wins this game, it's going to be absolutely massive for the playoffs and for who makes it in a wild card or in a division situation. Because if you fall to 1-3, it's going to be difficult to overcome that. Even though we've looked at the Lions' schedule, I've said, it gets easier after this. But especially so for the Saints. So maybe there's more kind of tangible motivation for the Saints, being that their schedule is probably not as weak as the Lions going forward, but they are under a lot of pressure. This is a team that was designed to win right now, and not just win, but win a Super Bowl. So maybe I'm kind of over or underestimating that. But I think when you look at it on paper, it comes down to which quarterback makes more throws into tight coverage, and I would pick Matthew Stafford. So I'm going to go with the Lions. The Seattle Seahawks at the Miami Dolphins. Now, I've said this to some people in the Discord, and this is why you join Discord. This is why you join the community, the Bottom Line View Discord, guys. Because I said in the Discord, talking to Durkant, Ultra, and the boys in there, this is a trap game for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I'm not picking Miami to win the game. Okay, I'm not picking Miami to win the game. But think about it this way, okay? Seattle just has beat, on the 1-yard line, New England at home. They beat Dallas, another big game. 38 or 36, 31, whatever the score was. They won by 1 touchdown. It was a close game. It was back and forth. It was exciting. So for both of those games, they had to get up. They had to rise up. They had to get motivated and win and won close emotional games. This week, Miami just destroyed Jacksonville on Thursday Night Football. They got a long week, extra days to prepare, extra days to rest. Seattle's coming off of 2 physical games where they've lost players to injury. They have allowed the most passing yards through 3 weeks in NFL history. They are now playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, who we know is very, very up and down. Very up and down. But when he's on, he is on. And he can make throws. And he can make plays. And this Miami team has players on offense that can make plays. Gaskin has impressed me. Devontae Parker. They got Preston Williams. They got Mike Gesicki. These guys can ball. These guys can make catches. I've seen it. I've seen it versus my Patriots many times. Defensively, they don't have a bad secondary. Their secondary is actually quite good, especially at corner. I'm not sure the status on Byron Jones, but if he does play, that would help a lot to face a DK Metcalf. It's also in Miami. So Seattle is having to travel from the west to the East Coast in warm weather, in a warm climate, where Seattle, I'm from British Columbia, I'm from Vancouver, I know this to be true. It's rainy, it's cold most of the time. Right now it's sunny, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So it's a totally different climate, and it's a totally different place to play. It's a totally different atmosphere in general. So I do see this being kind of a letdown week for Seattle, where they come out a little flat. And I think this is one of these weeks where Russell Wilson has like a comeback win. So for that, I'm going to say Seattle wins the game. But Miami, I'm actually going to take the points, because I wouldn't be absolutely blown away if Miami somehow pulled off a surprising upset here. But I do think that it is actually going to be close. Because Seattle, we know Seattle of the past, they never play a normal game. They never play a close game. And it's only a touchdown for a reason. So obviously Vegas has this at 7 for a reason. You know, probably most casual NFL fans would say, oh, Seattle's going to blow Miami out. I don't necessarily see that being the case for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to take Seattle to win the game, Miami to cover the 7 points, because I think there's too many factors that might be on the side of the Dolphins. Dawn doesn't want me to pick the Lions. I'm not French. By the way, guys, do you want to see what my cup says tonight? Instead of yesterday. Guys, if you aren't already following me on the Instagram, on the BottomLineView Instagram, you definitely should be following me on the BLV Instagram, because that's where it goes down. People in the chat. All right. I will get to the chat at the end, so guys, make sure you do stick around. Just taking a short little breather here. Let's get to the next game, which is the New York G-Men and the LA Rams. So, I have the LA Rams winning an absolute blowout in this game. The Giants are awful. They suck. They lost to a San Francisco team that didn't have like half their team. This was like a varsity San Francisco 49ers team that beat the New York Giants. The Giants' offensive line is dreadful. This week, they play Aaron Donald. The Giants are terrible in the secondary. This week, they play a hot Sean McVay, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, and Jared Goff, who's playing quite well. The Rams should be 3-0 after kind of getting screwed by the refs last week versus the Bills. I'm just going to be honest. Just going to be honest there. The Rams should probably be 3-0 and made a miraculous comeback after sleepwalking through the first half of that game. I mean, I think the biggest reason they lost was because they sleptwalk. It was a travel game. Again, just like Seattle this week versus Miami, it was one of those games. You got to travel across the country. You're playing in Buffalo. You know, you're playing on the road. You're playing a tough team, but you just come out flat for whatever reason. And you're coming off a couple big wins for the Rams. And that's what happened last week. Even though they were playing a team as good as Buffalo, they just weren't in it early. It took them a whole half to get in the game. This week, that won't happen. They're back at home. They're coming off a loss. There's mistakes to go over on film, to fix, to rectify. They're going to do that versus the Giants. The Giants are terrible. I don't know what the Giants pose here to make me say that they will win this game or that they will even cover 12.5 points. I'm sorry. Their offensive line is dreadful. They got no pass rush to get after Jared Goff, and this is a clear mismatch at coach. I'm taking the Rams to win, and I will also take them to cover the big number. Now this is a football game. We got the Buffalo Bills at the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's give it a actual football game here. So now this is interesting because I just talked about, the Rams went to Buffalo. They traveled far distance, all that jazz. Well, Buffalo's now having to travel to Vegas. And we saw already how well Vegas plays at home, which is very interesting to me. Buffalo is still the favorite in this game. So obviously Vegas is giving them some respect for being the superior team. Vegas is coming off a loss where they kind of got manhandled by New England on both sides of the football. And I don't think Henry Ruggs will be playing this week, which is a big loss in my opinion. And we saw that versus New England, how much him not being on the field kind of allows a defense to play Derek Carr and this offense quite a bit differently. Buffalo is now 3-0, but Buffalo could be in a situation here where this is a tougher matchup than most people realize, and I actually think this is a game where if the Raiders won, I wouldn't be absolutely shocked. There are a couple concerns about Buffalo that I haven't brought up because I think I've been very pro-Buffalo. I've been very positive in terms of the Bills, and I'm still picking the Bills to win this game. And this is a reason I'm picking the Bills. I'm picking the Bills because despite some of their flaws, which we'll get to in a sec here, I think if you are a legitimate AFC contender, which I think they are, you got to beat teams that are lesser than you. And this is why I'm taking the Bills. Like, if the Bills want to continue to solidify that they are a true contender, they should win this game. Not only that, but they just saw New England, a team that they're very familiar with, dismantle the Raiders. So, yes, the Raiders came out, they didn't play quite as well as they did versus the Saints because they were coming off an emotional victory versus the Saints. That's human things right there. But Josh Allen should have decent success in this game, running and passing. I think the Bills will have more success passing than New England did. But let's hope the Bills can run the ball a little bit better. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of their flaws. The Bills are not a good running football team. They have not been through the first 3 games. And what I'm talking about by running the ball is with their actual running backs, okay? Not the quarterback. Josh Allen's been good. But the Patriots, they were able to beat the Raiders because they just ran over the Raiders. They ran for 200 yards plus. The Bills, I don't think, can do that. But the other problem with the Bills is The Bills, they can't really close a game. And we saw that versus the Rams because they can't run the ball successfully. I talked about this on the bottom line with the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is terrible at closing games in the fourth quarter because they cannot run the ball to chew clock. When you're having to pass the ball when you're leading in the NFL, there is more chance for variance. There's more chance for you to throw an incomplete pass, which an incomplete pass stops the clock. Stop clock means the other team has more time to come back in the game. Common sense. The Bills are not good at that. Now, the Bills are going to have to come out, and Josh Allen is going to have to continue to play the way he has, slinging the rock. He's going to have to do that. I think he can do that. Now, there is also going to be weeks where Josh Allen does not do that. And it just can't be this week if you pick the Bills to win. Because I think there's going to be weeks within Josh Allen where he does not play at this level. It's going to be hard for him to do because of his accuracy, which is his biggest flaw, right? But when he's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, as we've seen through these first 3 weeks. But I do think the Bills' defense kind of gets back on track here. As long as they are stifling the run game of the Raiders, which so far from what I've seen from them, they haven't really been too bad versus the run. But their defense has not been as good as we thought. Their defense is actually quite a bit worse than last year and the year before. So I think the reason the Bills win here is because their defense rises to the occasion. Their defense makes a few plays, and they set up Josh Allen and the offense for success. So this could be an upset. I definitely could see it, but I'm going to lean towards the Bills continuing to prove that they are an elite team in this conference. So I'm going to go Bills 28, Raiders 24. They just cover. Oh, baby. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. Wait, hold on. Gotta wipe the sweat from my forehead here. I'm glistening a little bit. We gotta get ready. This is the game, guys. This is the game. I need some more likes before we start this game. I need some more likes before we start this game, guys. Let's get that. Gronk spiked that like button, guys. Let's get this going. Or maybe I should go like this. Gronk spiked the like button. 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 Shout out to Connor for that soundbite. Shout out to Connor for that soundbite. All right. This is the game of the week. The game of the week. Week 4. New England Patriots. Kansas City Chiefs. In Arrowhead. The stream of the week. I will be live. I will be commentating. I will be jumping up and down. I will be losing my mind when the New England Patriots take on the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. The spread. Kansas City is favored by 7 points. A touchdown and an extra point in this game. The Patriots are 2-1. The Chiefs are 3-0 after dismantling the supposed best team in football, the Baltimore Ravens. But Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, they were able to prove that they really are the team to beat. So New England is a team that, this is the way I look at New England, okay? Let me put in this, let me give you a a Mitch history lesson, all right? This is the way I look at this matchup. The Chiefs are what the Patriots used to be, okay? They're the best team in the league. They're the supposed favorite. They are the team to beat. They are the franchise that everybody looks at and holds high on this mantle. Okay? That's the Chiefs right now, given all the respect where it's due. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the boys, all right? The Chiefs are that team. The Patriots, these Patriots, not talking about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, not talking about the dynasty, not talking about the Patriots 5 years ago, the Patriots 10 years ago. Patriots now are the Ravens of the Ray Lewis, Joe Flacco era. Now, why do I bring this up? Baltimore Ravens were the perfect team to play Tom Brady and the Patriots when the Patriots were at their peak. They always gave them a good game. The game always went down to the wire. They always had the best game plan. They always, even on the road, came in and were not intimidated, while other teams seemed to always be intimidated. The Patriots are those Ravens with Cam Newton at the helm. All right? They're going to come in. They're not going to be intimidated. And they're going to smack you in the mouth. The Chiefs are at the top. The Chiefs are the Patriots with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That's how I see this matchup. Now, from a schematical perspective, this is my favorite matchup of the year. I know I said the Ravens and the Chiefs was the best game of the year. That was mostly because of hype. But in terms of the scheme matchup, this is my favorite matchup of every season because it's Bill Belichick versus Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. How can Bill Belichick stifle Patrick Mahomes? How will the Patriots secondary, which is the best in the league, face the Chiefs' great receiving core and all the weaponry that is at the disposal of Patrick Mahomes? I don't know exactly what the matchups will be. I don't know if Gilmore will be facing Sammy Watkins one-on-one in man coverage like he has been for the past 3 matchups. I don't know if Gilmore is going to be on Tyreek Hill in this game. I don't know if he's going to be on Robinson. I don't know if he's going to be on Kelsey. I don't know if J.C. Jackson's going to be covering Kelsey or if Jawan Williams, who's been kind of their tight end eraser, is going to be covering Kelsey. I don't know if Jonathan Jones is going to be on Hill or if he's going to be on Hardman. I don't know what they're going to do with Jason McCourty. I don't know what they're going to do with their new piece, or pieces, I should say, Adrian Phillips and Kyle Duggar. I don't know how they're going to utilize them, but I know Belichick's going to come out with a game plan that the Chiefs have maybe seen, but there's going to be a little bit of different things mixed into the mix. Now, I looked at this Patriots team, and if you guys have been following this channel throughout the offseason, I said, this Patriots team is a team that not any contender wants to see because the Patriots are built to beat a team like the Chiefs. Why do I say that? Their secondary is great. They got a great coach, and their offense can control the football, and their offense can score and is different, right? And they play power throwback football. Now, Chiefs fans are going to say, well, the Ravens just tried to do that, and it didn't work. So some key things here. The Patriots, I think, actually have a better passing game than the Ravens, first off. Second, The Patriots have actually beaten the Chiefs most times of the past few matchups. Third, their defense is much more well-equipped to take on the Ravens, or take on the Chiefs, than the Ravens were, as we saw on Monday night. And I just feel like the coaching is much more in balance. Andy Reid seems to have the magic when he takes on Harbaugh, but it's a little bit more even when it comes to Belichick. This is just such a fascinating matchup. I think offensively, from the Chiefs' perspective, this is the way I look at it. So let's start with the Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs need to force the Patriots to pass. Whatever they got to do from their defense versus New England's offense, they got to force them to pass. Why? Now, not because they're going to be successful defending it. I don't know. Maybe Cam Newton comes out and he plays like he did versus Seattle and he shreds them. But what does that do? Okay? That makes the game longer. It stretches the game out. It takes the clock out of New England's hands. If New England comes out and they can't run the ball successfully and have a positive EPA, and they can't just run the ball down the throat of Kansas City and can't dictate the clock and chew the clock and make the game shorter, even if New England is playing well passing the ball, it's going to make Kansas City better. It's going to allow them to win the game easier, because the more Kansas City's offense has the football, the more likely they're going to win the game. It's as simple as that. So for New England, you need to be able to, whatever means necessary, if that's short passing, if that's screens, if that's running the ball, you need to chew the clock. You need to keep Mahomes on the sidelines. And Kansas City is trying to stop that very thing from happening. If that means overloading the box so Cam Newton and this run game does not have the advantage, then that's what they're going to do. But then that leaves one-on-ones on the outside for New England. So Edelman may have a great game here. Guys like Harry, guys like their backs, Burkhead. White was back at practice. They're going to have big games. I think that's where New England can throw the football, is to their backs versus those linebackers, because they're going to need to have linebackers on the field, Kansas City. They can't not, because they're going to be facing a lot of these big, heavy sets that New England's going to roll out on the field. On the flip side, I think New England is going to say defensively, Clyde Edwards-Helaire can run for 200 yards and we'll be okay with that. I think they're going to play, I actually think, maybe this is a bold prediction, I don't know. I don't think the Patriots are going to play a linebacker in their defense at all. I think they are going to play safeties at linebacker, and I think they're going to play all defensive backs with just linebackers and defensive ends. They're just going to say, Chiefs, run the ball. Okay, we're run the ball. If you want to run the ball and win the game, we're okay with that. But we're going to try and take away your passing game as much as possible. I think the thing that's very fascinating is that when the Patriots have had success versus Kansas City, they've been able to keep Mahomes in the pocket at least, and not allow him to escape and create those big plays. And we've seen that when Mahomes escapes the pocket, he is so dangerous. He's so good in the backyard football element. As we saw on Monday night, a lot of the big plays that were created by the Chiefs offense was not because of their scheme, was not because of their straight up passing attack, but it was because of Mahomes extending the play and making magic happen from there. So from that facet, I think the Patriots need to be very conservative in what they do up front. They need to contain Mahomes, and they almost need to force Mahomes to play within the system. They need to force him to make, even though he's a great pocket quarterback as well, that's the lesser of the two evils. You got to get a pass rush from the interior and contain on the edge. You can't just tee off. The Ravens on Monday really had no gap integrity. They really had no rush integrity. The 49ers in the Super Bowl had no rush integrity at all. They were just going after Mahomes. But as we saw on Monday, Mahomes was just escaping and making a throw or scrambling or extending the play enough for his guys to get open. It wasn't that the initial play was open for the Chiefs versus Baltimore. It was the extension of the play that was open. Now, occasionally it's going to happen. It's going to break down and Mahomes will make plays. The Chiefs will score points in this game. But the best way to go about it if you're New England is to rely on your interior rushers. If that means stunts, if that means whatever, do that. But you cannot let Mahomes outside of the pocket because that's where you're going to lose. And I think they're going to play a lot of man, but I wouldn't be surprised to also see them go zone occasionally, especially early in the game so they don't give up the big play. So I think it comes down to which offensive style and which defense can stifle what we know the other team is going to do. That is why this game is so awesome to me, because we know what these two teams want to do versus each other. It's very rare in a game like this that we know. We've seen this matchup, even with a different element to it with Cam Newton. We know the basis of what the two teams want to do to each other because they've played in so many big games already in the past. And they've all been close games. Remember, last year, New England had that N'Keal Harry play where he extended past the goal line. And they called it a fumble, or they called it out of bounds, or they called it, I don't even know what it was. But he scored a touchdown, and for whatever reason, they didn't count it. There was a lot of bad calls last year. And basically, that was the only game Kansas City has won throughout this rivalry. Now, Kansas City has been better since then. You know, they won the Super Bowl. They got a new running back who's a lot more dynamic. I just think the scheme and the matchups, the individual matchups are so fascinating in this game. And that's why I'm so excited. And that's why I'm happy this is the stream of the week. Now, when it comes down to my bet, my pick, I am picking the New England Patriots to upset the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. I am picking Cam Newton and the Patriots to go to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. Straight up. I'm taking the 7 points, but I'm taking the Patriots. I think Cam Newton and what this team will do on the ground will be effective. I think the Patriots will score points in this game. And their defense is made to defend this offense. And while the Chiefs will score points, this is just one of those cases where New England is just such a good matchup for what Kansas City wants to do. Most times, Kansas City would win this game. But I think in my mind, not just with my heart, but with my mind, that if the Patriots play their best game and the Chiefs play their best game, even though the Chiefs are more talented, if the Patriots execute, they will win. The reason the Patriots didn't win last year is because their offense was garbage. Their receivers couldn't get open, and they could not pass when they needed to. That will not happen this game. That will not happen this time around. If there were fans in the stands full and it was loud, maybe that changes my pick, but that's not the case this year, as we know. The Patriots are a much, much better offense this time around. Much better. And they have a quarterback that you can't just blitz and play man-to-man because he will extend the play. And their defense, I know they're not as good, but they're actually better for this matchup. if that makes any sense, because they're more athletic at the second level with guys like Duggar and with Adrian Phillips and with Terrence Brooks in the mix. So I'm going to take the Patriots in an upset. Call me bold, call me a homer, call me whatever you want. I'm laying it on the line, and I do believe that New England will win. Regardless, though, this should be a great game, and I actually think this will be the game that we thought Monday would be. This is going to be one of the games of the year, not the Monday night game. If you enjoyed that, Gronk Spike the like button, guys, and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate that. Hey, what's up? My Gronk Spike's not going up. There we go. Gronk Spike the like button. Okay, I'm going to get to some comments because I know that's a big game. A lot of people are anticipating that one. So I'm going to get to some comments for this. So if you guys have anything to say about this matchup, do comment right now. And then I'll get to the rest of the games. I need more coffee. Pick my team every week. I think I picked Seattle to beat New England, didn't I? Durkant says the Patriots have the secondary speed and overall versatility to contain Kansas City's passing attack. Cam Newton outplays Mahomes, enters the MVP conversation, and the Patriots win 34-24. Wow, 34-24. Lex says Chiefs will cover. This sounded like just going against the public. Richard says Chiefs 38-17. Nicholas says Pats 30-27. How often is it that Nicholas and can't agree? He says someone's got to stop Andy Reid's crazy play designs, and it will be Belichick. Spunky says, I like the Pats in this game, definitely. If the Chargers can play a well-managed game with a rookie, you don't think Belichick can do the same with an MVP and come out on the winning side. Chiefs by 14, says Chris. This will be a great game to watch, says 49ers sack Francisco. Spunky says, I'm crazy. Lex says, I call you telling people to parlay against most expectations. Then if they lose, you will come back with this is what happened. Okay. By the way, I never said bet on this game. I just said that's my pick. Brian says, why can't the Pats Chiefs beat a Sunday night game? I have no idea. Why don't you complain to NBC? Kittle Spike It says Rob. Connor says Patriots will find a way. Nicholas says Mitch. The Bears are working out former Pats legend Lamar Miller. I hope he does well. Kevin Durkant says Jonathan Jones and Isaiah Wynn are the next generation of the elite New England Patriots. When did Durkant become a Patriots fan? This is weird. Michael says Mitch. What's up, Michael? Zane says 35-28 Chiefs. Chris says Chiefs by 14. Brian says the B squad versus the Eagles is a terrible game. Annette says Pats should be 3-0. That's true. They won on the 1 yard line. New England is going to destroy Kansas City, says Luke. Mark says, at Mitch, who has more to prove in the Raiders-Bills game? I think the Raiders. Opium says, Pats winning. Really, you think the Pats are going to win, but if nothing else makes for good conversation. I think you meant like, really, you think the Pats are going to win, but okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But, yeah, I do think the Pats are going to win. I do believe that. I wouldn't just say it. I do believe it. Now, is it unlikely? Yes. But do I think it's going to happen? Also, yes. So, Mr. Singh says Pats 24-20. Michael says Chiefs 27-20. Rob has 14-10 Patriots. That would be absurd. Chiefs are better than the Seahawks, says Tom. I agree with that. Zane says, any chance this game gets flexed to Sunday night? No. Nicholas says, everyone is a Pats fan now because of Cam. Durkan says, I've been a Jonathan Jones stan. Mitch, you should know. Oh, yeah, Durkan's trying to aspire to be Jonathan Jones. I remember now. Pats went from hated to liked. Spunky says, I wasn't saying you're crazy. I was saying if you don't think Belichick can win this game with the best running game in the NFL and MVP quarterback, then you're crazy. Holden says, is it bad for the Pats if they lose and go 2-2? No, they'll be fine. Considering they lost to Seattle and Kansas City, no. Chiefs defense is underrated. They've been up and down this year. They've been good at times, and they've been down. I would say the down game was the Chargers. They didn't play so well, but they played very well versus the Ravens. I will say that. Who is your favorite team to lose? Wait. Who is your favorite team to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Do you mean like that has already happened, or you mean like in the future? Or are you talking about... I don't really know what you're talking about, to be honest. Tyreek Hill gets 150 yards on Gilmore, says Zane. All right, we'll move on from that game. Few more. All right, so I'm going to go over the games that I don't know if they're happening or not, and I don't know the spread. I do know that like a day ago, it was -4 for Houston, so I'm just going to assume that. And I will make the rest of these pretty quick because we spent a lot of time on these other games. So the Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings in a game that could be actually canceled or at least postponed. I think they're talking about playing this on possibly Monday or Tuesday. And if not, I'm not sure when they would play this game. I have the Texans here. I have the Texans because I think this is a great matchup for the Texans. There are two things that the Vikings are not very good at. One, passing the football, and two, defending the pass. The Texans can pass the football very well with Deshaun Watson and their group of receivers. I think Will Fuller has a massive game. I could see Brandon Cooks having a good game as well. And the Texans are just due for a victory here. They held in the game versus the Steelers in a game that they easily could have won after watching it last week, and they were the better team in that game for a majority of it. Now, I do think the Vikings will keep it somewhat close because I think Dalvin Cook could have a big game here. The Texans' run D has not been up to par, and he'll probably put up a good fantasy day for your fantasy team. But Kirk Cousins, this offensive line has been pretty bad, and the Texans' defensive line is actually better than you think. They've created pressure. They sacked Ben and got after Ben multiple times last week in Pittsburgh. I think they can do that versus Kirk Cousins. Cousins has not been great. This defense has been worse than that. And really, the Vikings don't have any vertical threats to stress the secondary out, so that does allow them to focus more on the rushing game. But I think the Texans, they just win some sort of shootout type of game. I'm going to say it's like 30, 24, 31, or 31, I don't know, 27, something of that nature. I think the Vikings stick around, but I think ultimately the Texans, they're the better team. They have the better quarterback, and like I said, they are due to win this game whenever this game takes place. The next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Tennessee Titans. This line, I think, was the Titans -1 or the Steelers -1. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember actually placing a bet on the Steelers early in the week, but it got voided. It got canceled because this game's postponed. So unfortunately for me, because I was feeling pretty good about the Steelers in this game. The Titans are at home here. The Titans are undefeated. So are the Steelers. I think the Steelers are the more complete team. I've been concerned with what I've seen from the Titans. They have not covered the spread in all three of their wins, and their defense has been pretty bad. Their offense is decent. They can run the ball. They can pass it. I love Arthur Smith. I think Tannehill's solid. But The Steelers' defense is one of the better ones in the league. Their front seven is ferocious. They will be able to defend the run of what they throw at them with Derrick Henry. Taking that away, forcing Tannehill into more third and longs. That's kind of where Deshaun Watson and the Texans lost that game, is they were in too many third and longs and long passing situations where that Steeler pass rush is able to get after you. And that's ultimately what I think the Steelers will do to the Titans. I also see Big Ben playing pretty well. I've seen him throw the rock around pretty well, and he's moving around and outside the pocket, extending plays. Now, the offensive line hasn't been great, but the Titans' defensive line, their pass rush is subpar, and their secondary is below average as well. So with all the receivers that the Steelers have, even though they're not elite, they are pretty good, and they can create big plays and mismatches. I think the Steelers are a tough matchup for the Titans because of how good their front seven defensively is, and because they have a veteran QB and a group of talented receivers who can attack the weaknesses of the Titans' defense. So I like the Steelers to win this game. The Sunday nighter is the Philadelphia Eagles at the San Francisco 49ers. Another game. I've already bet this game. I took the number at 49ers -6, and I do like this as well. I still like it. I think it's 7. Now, I'm not sure if Jimmy's going to be back, but George Kittle is full steam ahead, and he will be playing, so that is huge. Deebo Samuel is looking like he's practicing. Not sure if he's playing, but probably back week 5, but he is practicing. Their offensive line still intact, which I mentioned last week is a big deal. They should have at least a couple of their group of running backs, and their defense still looks to be good enough. The Eagles, though, this is more about the Eagles being dreadful and the respect for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is a wizard. This guy put together a game plan versus the Giants where he shredded this defense with varsity talent out there. Like half his offense was out there, and he put up a 30 burger on the Giants. The Eagles' defense is better than the Giants' defense, but I would argue their offense is just as bad. They literally went into overtime and tried to tie with the Bengals. Carson Wentz has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He's been one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in the league. They've had trouble running the ball. They don't have Dallas Goedert. They don't have Jalen Reagor. They're missing a lot of their key pieces offensively, their playmakers. I think the 49ers are just a much better team. I think their coach is much better. I don't care who the quarterback is because they'll manage it. And George Kittle being back is a mismatch that the Eagles cannot handle. They could throw 3 guys on this guy. I'm not sure they have 3 guys who can cover him because they really don't have a linebacker or a safety who's great in coverage. Like, they might be better off playing Darius Slay on him, to be honest. I don't know. Like, I don't know how they're going to deal with Kittle. If Kittle's at 100%, he is going to go off. So I have the 49ers winning this game, winning it quite comfortably, and also covering. The Monday Night Football game is the Atlanta Falcons at the Green Bay Packers. Packers, Atlanta. Now, the interesting thing here is that Atlanta has actually beaten the Packers and Aaron Rodgers quite a few times in the past. They've actually dominated this series, dominated this rivalry in recent memory. But Atlanta's defense is absolutely atrocious. Their secondary cannot cover me and Rob in the chat. They can't cover Opium in the slot. Like, it's bad. Atlanta cannot cover. Atlanta's pass rush is underwhelming, and their run D is just average. Their offense is solid. They can pass the ball, but the Packers' strength to their defense is pass rush and coverage. So Atlanta can't really expose their run defense because Todd Gurley is a shell of himself, and they can't run the ball. Aaron Rodgers is on super hot fire mode right now. He's going to go off for 350, 3 or 4 touchdowns here. Devontae Adams might be back in the lineup. This, to me, it might be a closer game on the scoreboard than it actually is when you watch it with your 2 eyes, because maybe Atlanta puts together some garbage time points and drives. I think the Packers win 38-20. Something like that. Maybe Atlanta's closer than that. I haven't been super impressed with the Packer defense, but I do think Atlanta, their strength and what Green Bay's strength is, it kind of like is hand in hand. So I think Green Bay has a way better shot of at least slowing down Atlanta than Atlanta has of slowing down Aaron Rodgers. So those are my picks for week number 4 of the 2020 NFL season. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL weekly picks just like this. Also, comment your opinion, your picks in the comment section below. It's Mitch of The Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching. Tune in tomorrow for the stardom and the situm for week number 4 to get your fantasy teams up and ready to go for this week. Hope you enjoyed this week's games. The stream of the week, once again, is Chiefs-Patriots. I'll see you live on Sunday for that one. Also, subscribe to Patreon. Support the channel as low as $3 a month. You'll get my best bets on there for the games that I will be betting on this weekend and the games that I'm looking at wagering and placing some money on. And I also put up other videos. I've been a little slacking lately with some of the school stuff that's been going on, but I do recommend go follow if you do like this channel, if you do love this content. Show a little support. That's all I ask. Also, guys, do go follow us on Instagram at TheBottomLineView, same as the channel name. You can check us out on Instagram. Exclusive content over there. Kevin Durkamp posting some stuff himself. Ultra, his top 10 teams. I've posted stardom and situms and some other stuff as well. That is only exclusive to Instagram. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.